we've had a bit of a tidy up on our best behaviour because we're about to be graced with pop royalty.
I actually am sitting up straight. But before we chat to Sir Cliff Richard, please take a look at this.
He's one of British music's most enduring, most iconic and most loved stars. It's hard to think of anyone who's remained at the top of his game as long as Sir Cliff Richard. In an astonishing career, he's sold more than 250 million records and he's had #1s in 5 different decades. And now he's become a soul man for his latest massive hit.
Sit up straight, mind your P's and Q's. Please welcome Sir Cliff Richard.
Now,
nice, thank you.
250 million records. Do you ever get sick of hearing that fantastic figure?
No, I don't, but nowadays I've started saying plus.
Yeah.
You know, they've took us, that statistic came from about 20 years ago, and I must have sold a couple more.
Oh, so that's nothing compared to what the actual figure is.
250 suits me fine. It sounds impossible, doesn't it?
It's a huge, ridiculous figure.
You know why it sounds impossible now, though, is because we don't sell as many records anymore. You know, you can be #1 in Britain, for instance, with, what, 35 or 40,000 download and sale of CDs in a week. And when the Shadows and I were having hits, we were selling 80,000 a day.
Wow.
So when people say to me, would you like to have got singing now? I say, no.
It went all right.
It went all right, and we lived through that exciting time of actually selling millions of records.
Yeah.
And it was a new sound as well, so you was creating new music.
It was the beginning of rock and roll, really, in the rest of the world. In America, of course, they were about 4 or 5 years ahead of us. All the Elvis and Little Richard, Buddy Holly, Gene Vincent, all these people were playing great rock and roll, and we learned from them, really.
Yeah.
We picked
You brought it to Europe, though.
Yeah, in a way. I love it, the fact that John Lennon said that there was nothing before Move It. And Move It was my first ever rock and roll record.
That's amazing.
I feel kind of thrilled that he said that.
Yeah. So given your success, it's very disappointing when we hear a radio station called Absolute 60s.
Oh, yeah.
Have actually banned you from their playlist. Can you explain why that is? It sounds
I think
ludicrous.
it sounds like a scam to me. It sounded like they wanted some kind of publicity stunt.
Yeah.
And as I said on TV the other day, I hope they become really big and famous, because then I can say, well, I kicked them off. Because no one knew of them until they said they weren't going to play my music.
Well, yeah, that's true.
I mean, it's been nice for me, though. It's always a thrill when this happens, though, when what seems to be kind of bad and nasty, suddenly, you know, people have come out of the woodwork and say, well, how can they do this to Cliff and all that? Roger
the huge
Daltrey
status quo, all these people are coming out in your support.
So, and in a way, it is a bit silly, isn't it? Because, you know, you can't just play what you like. Otherwise, you'd only play what you like, and then we'd all be broken up. Whereas the Shadows and I were part of the 60s, and we were 5 years before the Beatles.
British musical history.
Well, it's history, and so therefore whatever was being bought then, if we were #1 in the 60s, they should be playing it to show that the audience liked not only the Beatles, but lots of other people, all different styles and feels. But I think it was a great scam on their part, and for me, I didn't mind at all. It's given me publicity that I didn't expect.
So not so much about your music, but more about your popularity. We hear that your calendar has actually outsold Cheryl Cole's. How does that feel?
Well, I'm still #2, though. I like that #1 spot.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second, but let's just have a little look at some of the clips. So we've got you with a classic dolphin flipper pose, playing a bit of basketball, shooting some hoops.
Well, you look at that. Oh, yeah, look at this.
The classic...
Surfing shot.
Yeah, I mean, your body... You know, you obviously keep trim.
I do try to keep trim. You can't. You know, I'm never going to be
That should
Arnold
have been a question
Schwarzenegger.
Jenny asked, actually. So.
I'll never be Arnie Schwarzenegger. But if you work out in the gym every now and then, you can get definition. That's all I want to do. I don't really want to be a Mr. Universe.
Well, as you said, #2 in the calendar charts, above Cheryl Cole, amazing. But #1 spot by those pesky One Direction boys. Who you listen to at the moment? Are you aware of their music?
Well, no, I don't really know their music yet. But there again, they've only been out a short period of time, and I don't spend a great deal. I mean, I'm off now for about 6 months, so I'll miss out on a whole load of new other groups that might come out. But if they're really good, and they did sound, what I heard earlier in the show sounded really good to me.
It's a good song.
So in 2 or 3 years' time, ask me the same question, and I'll know all about them.
We both love a pair of leather trousers, obviously, because we know that the girls love them as well. So.
They do, but the funny thing is, when way back, maybe 15 years ago, my record company did a survey amongst fans, and they said, we don't like Cliff in leather. And they also didn't like me being photographed with other artists. I don't know if it's all changed now.
So other artists on your DVD, on the tour, you actually have a lot of other artists, some guests that joined you on stage?
Yeah, because I did an album of soul stuff, and I got these soul icons like Percy Sledge,
Amazing.
Frida Payne, Lamont Dozier, who was one of Holland, Dozier and Holland. They wrote 54 #1s of all that Motown stuff.
Wow.
They were Motown.
Wow.
Who have I forgotten? Fifth Dimension, Aquarius, all that stuff. Did I Percy Sledge?
Yes.
You did.
Percy Sledge, and of course,
So-
I couldn't get Roberta Flack or Peabo Bryson, who were also on the album, so I invited James Ingram, who's an amazing singer, and a British-born black soul singer called Jackie Graham, who was fantastic.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, thank you
very much.
so much for coming in, Sir Cliff.
No, my
You're an
pleasure.
absolute legend, and we love you.
Thank you.
We
I love you too.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.